So let's take one graded activity. As you can see over here in section number 1, we have the introductory discussion forum, which is a graded activity, correct?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the forum. I presume everybody knows how to set up a discussion forum.
I don't think Maha and Suhail don't know this because I don't think they were.
All right. So then we'll go through that. Let's start with that. Okay. So when you get access to your course, this is what you'll see, which is basically all these sections or topics that will be obviously closed up like this. You can open all of them or close all of them and open single ones by simply clicking on the title. Okay. Now, as teachers and course managers, you have access to edit anything in the courses. So you have a turn editing on button here at the top of the course after you log in. So when you turn that on, you obviously will see all these buttons which show up with, little pencil marks and edit options, etc. Okay. Now let's assume we have section 1 over here in your course. We'll open it up, and at the bottom right of each section, you have something called add an activity or resource. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on that, and you have all these options which you can add to your course. So I'm going to select forum because we want to add a discussion forum, correct? I'll just click on add. So now I'll give the forum a name. Let's say test discussion starting forum. Okay, let's just give them some random name there. Now I'm going to leave it as everything else will be standard. Okay, standard use. If you want to restrict that between dates, you can do that by selecting the due dates. And if you want to cut off access to the forum postings where nobody can post after a certain date, that's called the cutoff date. Okay. Everything else can be left standard here. I just want to talk about subscription and tracking. This is important because if a student who's enrolled in your course is not subscribed to the discussion forum, they don't receive email updates whenever there is a discussion, replies, etc. So usually we would always have auto subscription to a forum. That means everybody is subscribed automatically to the forum, but they have the option to unsubscribe. So if they don't want to receive email updates. A forced subscription means everybody is subscribed and nobody can unsubscribe from the forum updates. Okay, so I'm going to leave this as auto right now. Now, this is where you have to pay attention.
But Yogesh, sorry. I think it should be forced because my understanding is that everyone needs to reply to the forum and need to follow the discussion.
Sure, absolutely. For subscription, that means they will not be able to unsubscribe. But here the subscription is basically because they will get email updates, right? But somebody who might not want email updates constantly, then they would choose to unsubscribe maybe, or they also have the option to actually get a digest. What a digest means is instead of getting an email for every single reply or discussion happening in a forum, so hundreds of emails show up in a day if hundreds of people keep discussing things, you can actually select, I want only a digest. Only once a day at night, give me a digest of whatever happened during the day. They can do that also from their profile settings. Okay. So now I want to bring your attention to the most important part of the setup here. Whenever you set up something like a forum or an assignment, you'll have a grading option, correct? Over here, I'm going to have a point grade, let's say maximum grade 100, okay? And under grading method, I'm now going to have simple direct grading. Simple direct means what? Just giving a number, right? Like 80, 90 or whatever it is. But actually, I'm going to select a rubric, okay? Now, after I select a rubric, I can have a grade to pass. If they want to have a pass grade like 80% or 90, you could have that here. But once you select rubric, you would come to the next option here called ratings. And we have no ratings, deselected as default, leave it as it is. What this means is when I click on save and display, so over here, just before I complete, activity completion options basically mean that the system will mark an activity complete when a student does a certain thing in the activity. So over here, I can tell the system, please show activity as complete when the student posts a certain discussion or reply, or they must create a new discussion, or they must post a minimum of 1 reply or something like that. So these are the requirements to mark it as complete. So this is something I can set up here. Okay. So 3 things to keep in mind when creating discussion forums. One is your subscription and tracking. 2 is whole forum grading. We have to select rubric here. And 3 is obviously the activity completion part. The activity completion part applies to anything you do in a Moodle course. Any activity, resource, etc. will always have an activity completion. This helps the student keep track of what they've completed and what they have not, and also helps them keep track of how much of the course they have completed. Okay. So now I'm going to click on save and display. Now, as you can see, we have selected rubric as the grading method for the discussion forum, right? So now the system asks us to define a rubric. When we say define a rubric, that means we're going to create a new rubric. So I click on define. I can give this a name saying discussion forum rubric research methods. So the reason I'm giving the name of the course or the teacher or course manager towards the end is for easy reference when we move into other courses also, because we can search and import this later. Okay. Now, this is the rubric available to us where we have to enter all the rubric criterion and the levels. Like for example, over here, I can say interactivity, add another criterion saying, let's say use of language or whatever it is, I'm just giving you some random examples here, but I'll show you how to set up the rubric. So this is one criteria. Over here, I can have things like moderate, professional, things like that, right? So if I wanted, let's say I have 2 levels, I can have moderate at say 20 points, and I can have professional at say 50 points. Okay. Over here, I can again have moderate and professional, but you can have how many ever levels you want. Okay. I'm just choosing to have 2. Ideally, you would have probably 3 or 4. Over here, again, I'm having 20 points at moderate, and a professional would be 50 points. Now, remember, we set up 100 as the grade for the discussion forum, correct? So the highest level for each criterion needs to be summed up to 100. Okay, so you have to make sure that's always summed up to 100, your maximum grade for the activity. Okay, once you're done with that, all you need to do is save rubric and make it ready. So when you do that, what happens is the forum has been set up, maximum grade has been set up. We've defined the rubric and made it available. So when somebody posts a discussion here, what will happen is you will obviously be able to see the discussion, but when you want to grade the users, you can actually click on grade users. And this is how the grading will start now. So as you can see, all the posts will come up here on the left. The student's name will come up here on the right. So this is student 1 out of 17. So I can keep scrolling to the right to go through all the students, and all their postings in the forum will show up on the left pane. Okay. So that's how you navigate. So as you can see, all of them are here. Okay. Now let's say for Dr. Hala, we have to set up, for Dr. Hala, we have about 2 posts which show up here on the left. So what we can do is we can actually select, let's say professional 50 points. I can give additional feedback. Okay. If I wanted for that particular criteria, the criteria was interactivity. Now the second criteria we set up was use of language. Again, I would say professional. So an additional feedback would be, okay. And then I can click on yes, send notification students. So they immediately get notified that they've been graded in this forum. So once this is done, I would simply click on save. That is how you would grade all the students for a discussion forum using a rubric. So I can keep going through all the students here, see all their posts on the left, and keep grading them. Okay. Someone is going to change this back and just click on save. Now over here, you have 2 buttons here on the right, which means that you can expand and contract. So if you click on this button here, it shows you 2 panes. If you click on this button here, it shows you only the postings. So that way you can control what you see. Now, any questions at all with regards to this?
Yes, what's the meaning of not set? You didn't, it wasn't there in the rubric, not set.
Actually, it
means
did.
that
It saved it, but I actually changed it back to not set.
What does it
So what
mean?
happens if I say professional here, okay? Two criterions have set 50 points, 100 points for Dr. Hala. If I go to the next student here without clicking save, it automatically saves it. Over here, grade saved for Dr. Hala, as you can see, right? So now Suhail is the next student, student number 8. I'll go back to student number 7. And as you can see, professional, feedback has been saved, everything has been saved. So it auto saves as you keep going right or left, browsing through all your students, seeing all their discussion forum postings and grading them in the criteria here. That sounds simple enough.
Yes, I have another question. You mentioned that the sum of the points should be 100. So 100 per criterion or 100 per field?
No, 100. No, the 100 for the entire rubric, because we set up a maximum grade as 100 for the discussion forum, correct? So the maximum grade a student can earn is 100. So when we set up the different criteria like interactivity and use of language, that would be 50% interactivity, so 50 points, use of language 50 maximum, so 50 points. So that would add up to the total grade of the discussion forum, which is 100.
Yeah, and if you want to add another criterion, then you need to reduce the points for the professional.
Exactly, correct. So what you would do is you would have, let's say if you had 3 criterions, it could be 20, 30, 50, 20, 40, 50. The maximum level, the highest level for a criterion will always have to, all the levels will have to add up to the maximum grade of the activity. That's the whole point. You can have how many ever levels you want. I'll show you one of the rubrics which Dr. Henry had set up. Let me close this. So now what I want to show you is when you are inside the discussion forum on the bottom left, you'll always have something called page settings. Okay. When you click on page settings, you have something called advanced grading. That is where you go to maybe edit the rubrics or something like that. So when you go to advanced grading, you will see your rubric here, correct? This is what we set up. If I wanted, I could delete it completely or I could edit it, correct? Let me delete this.
So you guys just understand. So if I go to advanced setting on the left, this means then whenever I will create any forum and select a rubric, it will definitely reflect all what I created as my standard.
Yes. Everything will always come under advanced grading, correct?
Yeah, okay.
So that's where you would go to play with your rubrics. Okay. So now I have deleted the rubric we just created. Now I'm not going to create a new one. I'm going to actually import a template. Okay. I'm going to import what is already available in the system. They've been created by all the other users in the system. So, we don't know who created them because the names of the course or the teachers or the course managers is not there in the title. But look at all these rubrics which are already in the system. So you have access to all these rubrics. So when you see a rubric you would like to use, and you can even edit the rubric after you import them, you'll always have this option called use this template under each rubric. Okay. So let's say I put something like Dr. Henry's name here. Let me search discussion forum. And you can see for discussion forum, there are 2 rubrics here, as you can see. Over here, one, and there's another one here. What I wanted to actually search for is, let me search for. Okay, so that is how you would set up your rubrics. You would define them if you had a new rubric, or you can import a rubric after you save a rubric. So for example, if you define this rubric we just defined, right? You don't have to create the rubric again and again for every discussion forum. It gets saved to the templates. You can always import it for all the other discussion forums without having to waste time creating it again.
How do you do that?
Right, exactly. So as I said, for example, let me define a rubric here for this discussion forum, correct? I'll say test, okay, and rehab, I'll call it that. Criterion 1, criterion 2, right? Average professional, expert. Just again, these are just
Yeah.
random examples I'm giving. Please do not follow the
Okay.
exact. And you have to give it the points. Let's say 10, 20, 30, and let's say 50 here, right? Oops, sorry. 50 here again, 30 here again, and let's say 10 here. All right. Now it's done. 10, 30, 50, 50, 100. Perfect. So now over here, as you can see the options here, I'm going to click on save rubric and make it ready. When it's ready, it gets added to the template database, right? So now I'm going to go back to your home page.
Mhm.
I'm going to create another forum, test forum again. Don't worry about
Mhm.
I'll delete it later. I'm going to create a forum again. I'm going to call it test discussion 2.
Mhm.
And I'm going to say and standard forum for general use. I want to say whole forum grading points, giving it 100 maximum grade. Grading method I'm going to choose as a rubric. If I want to have a grade to pass, I could say 80, for example. And again, as I said, 3 things to keep in mind: the whole forum grading, subscription, and activity completion. Show activity as complete when they have posted at least 1 reply or discussion. And you can also say, or you need to have them, a grade, assigned a grade for it to be marked complete, or grade not required to be marked complete. Okay. Now I'll say save and display. Now, since we chose rubric, it's going to go to the rubric page, correct? Now, instead of defining one, we're going to say creating new, grading from a template.
Mhm.
And now we're going to search, or what I will do is I don't even have to search because you created the form. I would simply say include my own forms and just click on search. And what will show up is, these are all your own. Okay, that is a little weird. So I'm going to say test then, click on search. Test rehab own form, correct?
Yes.
What we create. Now, since we want to use this,
Mhm.
I will click on use this form as a template at the bottom of that.
Mhm. Okay. And then you just how do you see it after that? You press on back or what?
As I said, when we were using the template, it will confirm whether you want to use it. And what you would do is simply hit on continue. It's all self-explanatory. And the rubric gets imported into your discussion forum. That's it.
Okay.
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 So any questions at all with setup of discussion forum, setup of rubrics, how to create a new rubric, how to import an existing rubric? Any questions at all? I hope it's clear.
Yes. Can you edit the grading?
Can you
come back and edit the grading after submission, after the students have been notified?
No, you will not be able to change the criterion after you've graded the students. Okay. But you can change the grade assigned to them after you have graded them. You can regrade them if you wanted. Yes, you can regrade them. Yes.
All right. And when you look at the posts, you look at the post per student or the entire sequence of posts?
It will show you only that student's posts.
It depends, Hale, what you are asking. If for the grading, it show you what each student had posted. But if you go to the forum itself, you will find the trail of feedback and who has replied to whom, what they said. So depending which view you are using, you know.
So when I go to a discussion forum, what I can see is the actual discussions, correct? So I can see the discussions here taking place. If I click on the discussion, I can go in and see all the posts of all the students, correct? But if I click on grade users, if I click on this button, what it takes me is to that screen with the posts of a particular user on the left and the user's name and the criterion to grade them on the right. So if I click on grade users is where I get the screen to grade all of them. So if I go over here and browse through all my users on the top right, all their postings alone will show up on the left and their criterion to grade them on the bottom of their photos. Yeah. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I clean up the course and delete these little test forums before I forget. And now the same thing can be applied to a PDF assignment. Okay. Or even if you wanted to have them submit something online, like you want them to type something online, that can also be done, like a written assignment online or a file submission online. So let's say again, turn editing on, add an activity, the first section, the first item here called assignment. Just double click on that, it gets added to the section. I can give it a name. Okay. And what I can do is set up the due dates, allow submissions from due date, cutoff date, etc. Remind me to grade them by particular date. That is when you get reminders from the system. Additional files is nothing but if there is some kind of reference file you wanted them to have, those can be uploaded here, like PDF, Word, PPTs, Excel sheets, whatever it is, video files, audio files. Submission types, the two types of submissions for assignments: online text where they type everything online, or they submit a file like a PDF or whatever. Maximum number of uploaded files would probably be just 1 or 2. So I would set it up as that. Submission size also, you can leave it as the maximum available in the system. Excellent file types, you can also, if you wanted them to submit only PDFs, you can just type PDF here. Or if you click on the question mark here, you can actually see that you can have a list of files like PDF, docx, and things like that if you wanted that. Or you could just leave this as empty and it accepts all the files. Okay. Feedback types is important because over here anyway, you have feedback, comments, and annotate PDF. It's what I want to concentrate on. This is an example of how you can annotate all their PDFs, give them comments and everything online without having to download the files. Okay. So everything is default here. You can leave it as default. Submission settings can leave it as default again. Grade, again, important. Point system, maximum grade 100. Grading method, make sure you select as rubric. Grade to pass if required, put that in. Activity completion, again, as I said, students can show activity as complete when students submit the to the activity over here. This is enough. Okay, over here. And you click on save and display. So again, just like the forums, when you set up something like an assignments, 3 things. You're talking about your grade, rubric, activity completion criteria, and also the due dates and feedback types. Make sure these are all set up. They all default options anyway, so you don't have to play around with them. Click on save and display. Again, because we selected rubric as the grading method, it takes us to the rubric page. You can define something here, or I could simply go and import one by selecting something I've already set up previously. Oh, I deleted that discussion forum, so that rubric is gone. Okay. All right. So, all right. So let me then define one if I wanted to, but similar method again, define a new rubric. Assignment test. Okay. And criterion 1, criterion 2, 3, 4. Same thing. I'm not going to take too much time here. Level 1, level 2, level 3. Okay. And the points, again, 100, right? So I'm going to maybe make this 35, 35, and 30. Is that correct? And this could be anything like 20, 20, 20, that's 60, 10, 10, 10. Okay, so easy. If you want to add an extra level, you can do that by simply clicking on add level. So an extra column gets added. If you want to remove that, you just click on the X button here and you can remove that level. Okay. Similarly, adding a criterion button is here to add a criterion here on the left. Now I would simply click on save rubric and make it ready. And it's done. Right. Now, remember that when a student clicks on the assignment link and they see this assignment information like due date, etc., they will also be able to see the grading rubric. Okay, on this page. Like you see the grade button, they will see the grading rubric. So now, when you as a teacher come in and click on view all submissions, you can see all the users on the left, all their details. Their submission shows up here. Right now, it's no submission. You can click on grade. When you click on grade against a particular user, what happens is this. Just like the discussion forums, instead of forum postings of a user, you will have their PDF submission here.
Okay.
On the left side. You can actually scroll up and down through the PDF submission. If they had multiple pages in the PDF, it will show up here on the top left, page 1 of 2, 1 of 3, 1 of 4. You can go right and left here. Okay. You can search through the comments you made on that PDF. Now, this is the most important bit. Making annotations on the PDF itself. So for example, I can add post-it notes. Let's say they have a paragraph here. I can write comments here for this paragraph. Okay. Now let's say I go to page 2. I can actually do all sorts of annotations. Okay. Anything I wanted. I can even write text here. Okay. You get the idea, right?
Yes. Do they see the annotations?
Yes, of course. So all the annotations you do will be saved in an annotated PDF, which is available for the student to view and also you to view. So instead of downloading and sending files, everything is stored in the system. They submit the file, you see the file in the system, you annotate the file, they again go back into the system, they see the annotated file, they see all their comments, and then they see their grade. It's very simply done like that without having to go through multiple files. Everything in one place. Okay. Now, as you can see, the criteria.
Yogesh, I have a question for assignments.
Yeah, please go ahead.
How can we make the assignment as group assignment? Like we have the student grouped in 3 groups and then they send it as one assignment. How we can do this on the system and how we can do the grading accordingly?
Okay, so let's say we have 9 students, a group of 3 groups, correct? 3 students in each group. You want,
yes, exactly.
You want 3 of them to submit only one paper, is it?
Yes.
Okay, interesting question. Okay, let me just finish this and we'll check the group settings. Okay. So sure. As you can see here, you can select the criterion by simply selecting the different levels, and the points for that level get automatically added. Okay. I'm just trying to move this here. I just want to show you this button here on the bottom right. There are 3 buttons. This helps you again contract and expand your views. Okay, the window views. So at least you don't have to struggle in terms of viewing. So as you can see, after viewing the PDF file and giving my comments, I can select whatever levels I want. So over here, the 3 green levels selected for 3 criterions, 20, 35, 55 plus 10, 65. So that will be the total grade. And when I'm done, I click on save changes and I go back, or I click on save and show next, meaning save changes here and show me the next person's submission. If I click on reset, what happens is all my criterion selections and grades, everything get reset. Okay. And all my comments are gone. Everything is gone. So make sure we only want to reset when you want to completely start fresh for the students submission grading. Okay. So any questions with regards to PDF submission, annotating of PDF, and rubric grading of a PDF assignment? Anything at all? Okay.
No.
All right. So now let's go back to my course, and I want to go to this assignment and just check the group settings. So over here, again, you will have something called page settings on the bottom left. For every activity in Moodle, you'll have page settings. If I click on that, there should be groups, group overrides, something called group overrides. Let's check that. No groups you can access. Okay. All right. Let me do this first. Let me go to the main course and let's set up the groups first. Okay. Now this is the main course page, correct? I go to options. I go to more options. I go to users and I go to something called groups. Okay. Just make sure you know how to get here. Course options, users, groups. Okay. So when I go to groups, I'm going to say create a group because there are no groups existing right now. I will first create a group. I'm just going to keep it simple. Group 1, group 2, group 3. Okay. Group 1, you don't need a description unless you want to give one. Okay. And I'm just going to save changes. You can add all the additional details if you wanted. So group 1, in the parentheses, you have 0. That means it has 0 users. I create another group called group 2. Okay, save changes. And I'm going to create another group called group 3. I think because there were 9 students in here, but okay, we'll check that. Group 3, save changes. Okay, so 3 groups, 0 in each. So what I'm going to do now is I want to select group 1 and I click on add or remove users. All right. Now I get a list of all the students in this course, people with a student role. I'm going to just simply add Maha here, Dr. Hala here. Let's say Isabel May here. But Dr. Hala is a teacher. Isabel May is a teacher also. Okay. Oh, I'm selecting teachers. I'm so sorry. These teacher roles from the group, and one of us select all the students. Let's say I have Sharifa Mahdi here. So 2 students here. Let's say again Maha here, 3 students. Okay. So I have assigned a group with 3 students. If I wanted the teachers to separately control the groups, I can do that also by assigning teachers to a particular group. So what happens is, let's say I add Professor Rehab here. So Professor Rehab will have access to only this group's submissions.
Yeah.
Okay. So that way you can even adjust if you want to separate the teachers out with the groups. Okay. So that's group number 1. I have 3 members. I'm going to go back to groups, select group 2 and group 3, and just that way add all the students to the groups. Okay. Let me quickly do this. And then we'll go to the.
So Yogesh, just an ignorant question. So once I have assigned those group 1, group 2, group 3, those are like a standard for all my assignment, or I can make different grouping for different assignment?
No. So what happens is you are creating groups at the course level. Okay. So those groups alone will have to be used for your assignments when you have group assignments.
Yeah, but for example, I have assignment 1 and I have done in group 1 Maha and Sharifa, but in assignment 2 I want them to be remixed. I don't want the same group.
Okay. So what we can do, I think we can do group overrides. I'll show you that. Let's say, okay, I've created a couple of groups here. Let's go back to my course. I think you can override them locally for a particular assignment if you wanted to. Let's just check that.
Okay, good.
Let's go to the course homepage and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the assignment and I'm going to edit the settings for the assignment. Waiting a while. Okay, there we go. Now I want to tell the system that this is going to be a group submission, correct?
Yes.
You have something called group submission settings. So where is request to click the submit button? Why is this no? As you can see over here, you can also have custom grouping. I don't know why it's not allowing me to change it. Is it because we had a submission already? Let's check that. File submissions, feedback types. Okay, let me just. Not sure why it's not allowing me to, because there's 0 submissions, but it's still not allowing me to create. Okay, let me just check a setting again. Options, more. Users, groups. So we do have group 1 and group 2 set up already. Groupings is nothing but groups of groups, that's fine. And in overview, I just want to make sure we don't have any settings we missed there. Sure, you can check who's in a group and who's not, that's fine, okay. Let me just create a new assignment and check this. Let's create a test assignment again, just to double check the group settings, and if it makes it available for us, select. Test group settings, okay. And allow submissions, all that is fine. I'll keep this as default. Feedback types is fine. Settings over here, yeah, there you go. Okay, so now when we set up the assignment, you have something called group submission settings, and you can select this as yes. So require group to make submission. That means, as you can see over here, if enabled, only the one person from the group will be required to make the submission. Okay. If you select no, grouping for student groups, none. Okay. So over here, we just need to make yes. And the group will have to make one submission for the assignment. Does that answer your question of having multiple students make one submission together?
Yeah, but I will need to test it. And if I have challenges, maybe I will revert back to you.
Sure, absolutely. And over here, so there's something called groupings, as I said, right? So we can actually, if you know what the groups of students are going to be for different assignments, you can set them up in groupings. So under users and groupings, you can actually do that where we set up the groups. So you have groupings also. You can set that up so that then basically you can assign them to various assignments that way. Okay. So what happens here is when there are 3 students and one person makes a submission of a PDF file, the same PDF file reflects for the other students also. So whatever grade and comments you give over here will be copied over and duplicated across all the students in the group. Okay. And so yeah, so please do test this group settings out and let me know if you have any issues. and then we can just get to it. But I think it should be pretty straightforward once you create the groups and groupings. Yeah. So any questions at all with regards to discussion forums, setting up of discussion forums, assignments, setting up of rubrics, importing of rubrics, using the rubric to assign a grade, making comments, annotating PDF files for submission, etc., etc. Anything at all